Hi everybody, this is Jason. I'm going to do a quick recording on how to set the sensitivity for the drum kit here at Irondequoit. As you know or may not know, I guess everybody knows this, Pat Sturmer, he actually is one of our more light players on the drums, and he needs his sensitivities turned up a little bit when he's playing. So what I'm going to do is just a quick little video here to show you how to do that, to make those adjustments on sensitivity. When you turn the kit on, when you turn the module on, this is the screen that appears. It's 43 is the default for our church. That's the drum kit that we use. It's called Northridge, which you can see there in the center. The first thing you want to do when you're making this adjustment for the sensitivity is to select this trigger button over here. It's actually the second button in. It's chain, then trigger is right here, so you're going to select trigger. And what happens is typically the default is this bank item here. It's the first F1 there. What the next thing that you want to do after you hit trigger is to go ahead and hit F2 for sensitivity, and that brings up the sensitivity for the various pads. For instance, this is the hi-hat. I'm actually hitting the hi-hat now, and you can see that says hi-hat there on the top right of that screen. Then there's the crash 1, crash 2 is the right crash. Then you can go and proceed through each of the drum pads themselves. Those are the 4 toms, and you can see that each time it changes. Hit the snare, and that changes the sensitivity as well. And then the kick would be the last thing that you would want to change, the last thing that you could change, really. Anyways, the baseline for the hi-hat, we'll start with that, is actually 8. The sensitivity should be 8. Don't worry about rim gain. I don't adjust that. We shouldn't adjust that. And for Pat, the key is everything's about 15 greater. So 8 plus 15, that is 23. So what you're going to do when Pat's playing is you're going to actually make sure that you can select different things. Like there's a trigger type here, and I just moved up to that. So you're going to push the down arrow once to get to the sensitivity being highlighted, which is 8 here. And then you just spin this wheel, and you would go up to 23 for that one. And that's Pat's setting. So that's how you do a sensitivity change on these kits. You select the pad that you want, which is the hi-hat. You set your sensitivity where you want it, and then you carry on from there. So for Pat, the hi-hat is 23. Crash 1, or the left crash, is normally 10 for everybody else. In Pat's case, you're going to add 15 to that, so that's actually 25. And you go ahead and make that adjustment. And then just moving over, the right crash, or crash 2, that's 10 for everybody as well. So the crashes are the same for everybody, whether it's 10 or 25. 10 for everybody else, 25 for Pat. You would make that change to 25 there. And then the next thing you're going to do is just progress through the kit however you choose. Just staying with the kind of a logical order for me, the next thing I do is the ride, and the ride's base is 8. And that brings up a good point. The bases for the ride and the hi-hat are both 8. So everybody else is 8. For Pat, you add 15, and that equals 23. So you turn it to 23. So now you're set pretty much with your hi-hat, which is 23, your crash left or crash 1, your crash right or crash 2. Those are both 25, and then your ride is 23. So 23 for the hi-hat, 23 for the ride, and both your crashes are 25. Next thing we're going to do is move to the toms. So each tom is actually the same as well. Every tom is baseline is 5, so everybody else would have a sensitivity of 5. And again, for Pat, you just add 15 to that, so that turns that to 20. So we'll do each one up to 20. So that was tom 1, tom 2, that's 5. We're going to go up to 20. And this actually goes fairly quickly once you start doing it a few times. From 5 to 20, like so. Tom 3 is already at 20. And sometimes I'll end up messing up like that, but you just can look and see where you're at, so you're not getting too confused. So then the Tom 4 is 5, and we're going to go up to 20. So that's Tom 1 through 4. The snare, the base setting for snare for everybody else is 7. Therefore, for Pat, that would be 22. And this gets you in the ballpark. 22 for Pat. The kick, The base setting for everybody for the kick is 14. Adding 15 to that brings you up to 29. And that's the kick for Pat. Just to show you how high up these go, they actually only go up to 32. So your choices are 0 to 32. I don't know if it goes all the way down to 0. Let's check that. No, it goes to 1. So your frequency, or your, I'm sorry, not frequency, your setting range for your sensitivity is 1 to 32. And everybody else is pretty much on the lower end of that except for the kick. It's right in the middle. But then you see with Pat how he plays and the style that he plays with, we have to turn the sensitivities up higher towards the 32 range. And obviously as you increase in sensitivity, that means you have to hit the pad less hard to have equal volume. As somebody who is hitting the pad harder would need a lower sensitivity, so you would decrease sensitivity. And that impacts how much electronics is transitioned from the pads into the machine and goes out to our mixer. So again, right now I'm at 1 with the kick because I showed you that demo, so you'd want to go up to 29 for Pat, for his kick drum. So that's how you set for Pat. The key to remember is once you turn this module off, those settings will be saved forever until you turn the module back on again. So there's no save button that you have to hit. Anything that's changed on this from a setting standpoint is automatically saved. So as soon as you turn off the module, then all your settings are saved along with that automatically. That's both really good and quite bad, because anything that anybody does, any little style change or anything like that, can result in a change that gets perpetuated over time. So let's go back through it. I'll set everything back to how our other drummers like it. Kenny, James, Sean, everybody else likes their settings at the lower end. So we'll start with the kick, just kind of go in reverse order. 29. So in order to set it back for everybody else, we'll go to 14. So we're at 14. Hi-hat, 10. Sorry, 8. Ride. And you have to select it. There's a couple ways I should go through that. There's a couple ways to select your kit. The way I do it is I just tap each of the pads. So you tap one, you can see how it changes depending on what one you hit. So I was at the hi-hat. We're back to 8 with that. I think I changed my kick back. Just verify that. Yep. Ride is 23, so we're going to bring that back to 8 as well. Crash, back to 10. Other crash, back to 10. Toms, back to 5. That was Tom 2, Tom 3, 5. Tom 4, 5. This gets repetitive, but I think for purposes of watching it and just seeing it repeated a couple times is good. Finally, the snare goes down to 7. And then at the end of all that, I just personally just go through, make sure everything's the same, and I have it all set up. It would be bad to have one instrument set for Pat and everything else set for the other guys. You can imagine what that would sound like. So that's how you do the trigger setup, and really that's the big change that occurs between our players. And again, the only player that this really occurs for is Pat. So hopefully that helps, and we'll get you on the right page. Obviously, if you have any questions or anything, or referral or anything like that, or any questions that you might have, just, I guess, ask. It's not super hard, but it's just kind of doing it a couple times to get it down. And then obviously when you're all said and done, if you hit kit, it goes back to your display setting. That way you don't have to worry about somebody changing that. So again, just to review, trigger is be on bank usually. Go to sensitivity, hit your different instruments. This is how you turn your adjustments with this button over here. It saves automatically. When you're done, hit kit and turn off the machine. And you're set. So now we're set for whoever plays but Pat. And if Pat were playing this week, we would just make that adjustment and it would be set up for him as well. The only thing I ask is that when Pat plays, perhaps the right thing to do is to go back and reduce those settings once he's done at the end of the day on a Sunday. That way it's just defaulted back to kind of our default setting. So again, thanks for your time. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see if we can make any more changes or adjustments and maybe add some more things on as far as the videos go. just to kind of talk through some different things with this kid at this point. But the pressing thing was doing this with the sensitivity. So anyways, I guess that's how I'm going to end it, and thanks for your time.